Lothian no armor. I'll show them no armor. Aha, suck it. What's up, Oni? I have 3 seconds reload, baby. Yeah, keep shooting me, buddy. Top 10 scariest tanks in War Thunder. What, you think it's gonna be the Sherman 105? Think again, buddy. Hey guys, it's Jim here, and welcome back to War Thunder. And in today's episode, I'm going to take a quick break from Heroes and Generals but it's War Thunder series to kind of bring an attention to this vehicle. And why do I want to bring up this vehicle is that if you have seen some of your favorite YouTubers like Fly Daily, and they always say stuff like in reserve tier tanks don't exactly have armor. And to be honest, they're not wrong. I'll say they're not wrong. The Daimler, for example, as you can see in reserve tier, you only have 60mm of armor and whatnot in pretty much every angle. So that means this thing can pretty much die to anything it looks at. But here's the thing though, what if I told you that in reserve tier, there is a tank that you need to keep an eye out for because it does have armor? And no, I'm not talking about the F43-105 Sherman, I'm not talking about the SU-122, I'm talking about this guy. And you have seen in any of my videos involving reserve tier vehicles, take note that I always mention that the gun needs to pen more than 60mm of armor. And this tank is the sole reason as to why. Now let me break it down to you and I'll show you why I fear this thing more than anything else in reserve tier. Now first things first, armor. I mentioned that you need at least 60mm of penetration with your gun, and here's the reason why. You have 60mm of armor right here, there's no slope whatsoever, and then there's 30mm right here, sloped at 66 degrees, and 60mm right here, sloped at 19 degrees, and 20mm here, sloped at 73. Doesn't seem like it's a lot, right? Well, here's the thing though. You may be able to penetrate through this, but keep in mind that when you have at least 60mm of penetration, that is assuming that the tank isn't either angled or the tank is at point blank. So that means when I play the Valentine I, all I have to do is angle. And you might be thinking, if you angle, won't your sights be exposed? Yes, but it's not vulnerable. As you can see, it's 60mm at all angles. If I angle this thing, like, you're not getting through this anytime soon. And the worst part is that at battle rating 2.3, you do have a tendency to get down tier or play within the tier. You'll be coming across guns that can't even penetrate this even though you don't angle. Or at the same time, if you angle, they're not getting through this anyway. So yeah, this is actually pretty strong armor for a tank that's at 2.3. And going back to the rear, you have 60mm right here. And then you have 17mm sloped at 16 degrees. A lot of guns will bounce off this, you'll be surprised with what kind. And should the shell does penetrate, it's just gonna get the transmission or the radiator or the engine. You have 65mm up here. That is a very, very, very awkwardly angled design. You're not getting through this anytime soon, man, trust me. Unless of course you get lucky and nail this right here when the gun is pointing at you. Or you can get lucky and hit this instead. But how often does that actually happen? What the Valentine player can do is just keep moving, and this will be a problem. Then moving on to the sides, you have 60mm right here. And again, if your gun can't even pen 60mm of armor, you're not getting this thing anytime soon. Don't think you could just because you're on the side or on the rear. And speaking of the rear, we have the turret 65mm. You have a bit of a weird notch up here, so yeah, this is a bit of a dangerous spot to hit. So when you're playing this Valentine I, here's a few things you need to be careful of. Firstly, Soviet APH in BC can definitely brush through this because, you know, Soviet. as well as German heat shells, and Sherman 105 heat shells can definitely punch through this. But if they don't have the penetration, they can actually shoot this right here. The turret ring right here is only 10 millimeters, but the good news is that with volumetric not being a thing, this is a little bit harder than it looks to hit. Except maybe, a 50 cal and all that, if it gets lucky and just squeeze right through it. But yeah, that's about it. And it can be easily remedied by simply putting a bunch of jerry cans. You don't need to spend money on bushes or anything. You can just put a bunch of jerry cans around the turret ring and just to hide it. And then one more weak spot to be careful of. You don't exactly have roof armor for a tank that has basically armor in all directions. Yeah, you don't exactly have roof armor right here. 50 cals can definitely shred through this. Auto cannons as well. So mobility wise, yeah, for a rather well armored tank, 60mm front and sides, you don't exactly have a very good engine power. 125 horsepower, and you're only going up to 24 kilometers an hour. And that is you going on road, mind you. Off road is gonna be a pain in the ass. Maybe you'll get the exact same speed, but it's gonna take a while. And let's not forget the reverse gear. And then moving on, the firepower of this thing. This is the 40mm QF 2-pounder cannon. And if you've seen my Churchill Mark III video, I was complaining about this thing being a little bit overtiered in its battle rating 3.3. It doesn't really do too well. So the good news is that now that this thing is at 2.3, or battle rating lower, yes, this is very devastating. And if I'm not mistaken, this might be one of the hardest hitting, armor piercing, slinging cannon, not including heat shells. And with the 40mm goes, this is the shell that we'll be firing. Armor piercing cam ballistic cap shell. That pens up to 89mm of armor at point blank. No explosive mass though, but the reloading on this thing is really not an issue. Now there is a armor piercing tracer, or basically APHE. If I'll be honest though, I'd say don't bother with this thing. I mean, if you're grinding this thing, then maybe you can try it out if you like, but me personally, no. As you can see, it pens up to 66mm of armor at point blank, which is okay at this battle rating, but I don't really trust the fact that it doesn't have a ballistic cap. So angle of penetration is really awful with this thing. But hey, at least the explosive mass is not too bad. 19 grams of explosive mass, doesn't seem like it's a lot, but it's leadite, so the shrapneling is actually pretty excellent. Angle of penetration is not really great on this thing, so I'll just use the APCBC. I have the reload for that, so... And speaking of which, the other specs on the gun, you have 61 rounds of ammunition, which I'll say just bring as many as you want, because they are going to be down here, so it doesn't really matter whether you bring less or more. And reloading rate 3.1 seconds. Yeah, so this is the part where I say APCBC, just use that shell instead of APHE. Yeah, you have the reload for the APCBC, don't really bother with something that doesn't pen nearly as well. And here's a little interesting bit of tidbit. Your gunner, it performs tank loader duties, so that means if this guy gets knocked out, that's not really an issue, you're still maintaining that 3.1 seconds reload. Vertical guidance, negative 15 gun depression, that's actually pretty excellent if you're playing all down defensively and all that. Targeting speed, 14 degrees a second, that kind of feels a little bit sluggish at times, but it's not too bad. I mean, I've seen worse turret rotation speed than this thing, but yeah, sometimes you wish it's a little bit faster. And finally, gun stabilizer vertical, which I believe is around 7 kilometers an hour or something. It's not really that great, honestly. Like even the Valentine can't keep the gun stabilizer up. And so there you have it. This is the Valentine Mark I. And if you're wondering, will this thing go up to 2.7 battle rating? The answer is hopefully not, because this thing doesn't really feel like it's a 2.7 tank. I mean, there has been moments where it does get penetrated by some of the most ridiculous moments ever, as well as more and more guns are showing up that can pen more than 60mm of armor and don't really care that you have angles. Like, someone with APDS. Alright, that's all I gotta say about the Valentine Mark I. Now let's get into battle. And let's remind Germany that their HFAM has never been that effective, shall we? Guess I suppose no. this. Get out of here. Tenegan. Ah, sakit. in this freaking nuclear sun shit. Your nightmare is here, Panzer II. Transgressions, your head is order. Stop it. I don't have a good everything. I'm so wounded. The hurricane is so chunky. Keep spraying. Face me, buddy. This one. Where's the other guy? There you are. You are somebody I do not want to see. Britannia, Britannia Railways. Britons wherever shall be slaves. Rule Britannia. Right here, buddy. Stop person. Britannia rule the ways. What if Sherman's just hiding there? see me in the map now. I wanna do something about it. Oh my goodness. I really want to do that, but if you're gonna keep camping on the